up front. Ken's been fantastic. My sister Kathy and I came to see Ken and his very able assistant Kirsten some few months ago to ask them would they host this evening, and Ken said yes straight away. He's got a long association with Harold, and I'd just like to thank Ken up front. He's been very generous. He's put this on for us. And you see that I'll make no apology for my bright clothes tonight. I wanted to be in the spirit of Uncle Harold. We all knew him, all his nieces and nephews knew him as Uncle Harold throughout our life, and we had lifelong associations with him. You'll see from the book and you'll see from the DVD that's going on there what a character he was. And he was a character. He says the story that he was an artist, he was an actor, he was a songwriter, he was played in a band, he was a poet, and he was a writer. He was a quintessential showman. And in terms of the family, he's got a special place in our heart. Now tonight is the culmination of around 7 years hard work by Pinker Cal, the author, who Harold met in Amsterdam in around 1975 because she needed somebody to paint a banner for her first big exhibition at the Tropical Institute Museum in Amsterdam. Pinker's a cultural anthropologist, and she was curator of East Asian art. And she was putting on an exhibition of Thai art and needed somebody to paint a banner. She was a bit panicky about that because she didn't have a lot of time, and someone said to her that there's this odd Aussie bloke up in the red light district who was painting shop front windows and doing sign writing. So she met Harold, and he came down and had a look at what he had to do, and he said, yeah, I'll do that, but I'll have to work non-stop for the next 2 days. But I want you to let me bring my dog Captain Beefheart with me. And Pinker said, no, you can't do that, but I'll tell you what, I'll leave the dog in my office, so when you get a bit lonely or the dog wants to see you, can come and see him. And Harold basically worked with one of his friends for 48 hours straight, roundabout, to get that banner done, and they were successful in that, and that led to a lifelong friendship. And for the last 7 years, Pinker's been coming out here to Australia, ostensibly to do some work in Bali to train curators and pass over her knowledge to Balinese for their own artworks. But she's also come over to Australia to see her brother Bram, who lives here, and but also do research on Harold. And she's done a lot of work, and it's been a love work in terms of that. She said that this is she had such a great set of works that this needed to be documented because Harold had quite a different attitude to his artwork. He always saw his artwork as his children, and said he didn't want to sell to private collectors because that meant the public wouldn't be able to see it. So he kept most of his art, which is basically still stored in Amsterdam. And Pinker, on her visits out here, goes and knocks on the door of the art galleries and talks to the art gallery directors and says to them, will you take some of Harold's work? She's been successful in some ways. That a very good piece of artwork of Dr. Bob Brown, which was an entry in the 1984 Archibald Prize, is now in the collection of the National Portrait Gallery. And she was telling Philip and I tonight that she's been successful in the last 24 hours to get the Art Gallery of New South Wales to take all of Harold's papers, cartoons, writings, photographs to be archived. So that's a big also, too, the Powerhouse Museum has a lot of, or most of Harold's clothes, because he used to paint his clothes. So they've got some of them were a bit raunchy too. Some of his clothes, but they're taking some more of his artefacts, so they'll be held in posterity for Harold. And we've got some more work to do to make sure that Harold's paintings find a permanent home. And there's lots more things on the agenda. You see my Facebook page that I've put up called the Harold Thornton Project. We have in mind to do other projects for Harold, including a documentary and a feature film. And one of my dreams is to have a full colour plate coffee table book eventually when his name gets more out there. So that's about all I've got to say. Harold's got a special place in my heart, as he does with lots of relatives. There's lots of cousins here, second cousins, and even a third cousin here somewhere. We all knew him, as I said, as Uncle Harold. And I used to turn up at my house when I was a kid, either driving his multicoloured Morris 1000 panel van, which was painted psychedelic before the word was even invented. And then later on he'd turn up in his late 40s hearse, which he had all painted ghosts over it, and with his dog called Van Dyke and his cat called Vegetable. And we'd stay at our place leading up to Christmas, so we'd get some work at the local shops, painting Santa Clauses and reindeers on the shop so he could get some money to buy some more oils and some more canvas. That's what he did. So I could stand here and talk to you for hours, but I mean, Pinker gave me an early draft of the book, and she launched the book in Amsterdam in November. And Harold's had a long association, or Harold's works have had a long association with the Bulldog coffee shop in Amsterdam. And that painting on the front of the Bulldog coffee shop is now a landmark tourist attraction in Amsterdam. I was there late last April to visit Pinky to talk about the book and the book launch, and I went to the Bulldog and had some conversations with the staff there and the marketing director. And because of that painting on the front of the Bulldog coffee shop, Henk de Vries, the original owner, is now very wealthy, and he's got 7 Bulldog coffee shops in Amsterdam, and he's got a backpackers hotel. Many of Harold's paintings are there on exhibit on the different floors, and actually some of Harold's ashes are there as well, in a special case. Now, just talking about his ashes, I'll just digress for a sec about his funeral that was held in around 2006, I think, that we attended in East Sydney. And Pinky was here at the time, and Philip gave the eulogy, and a bit of surprise that Philip then said that after the speeches took place, he all asked people to come forward with, he had little pots of paint with brushes, and we all stood around the coffin and painted on the coffin. And the funeral home was so stoked with that, they took photographs and put that on their website. It was an appropriate send-off for a person that used to call himself the greatest genius that ever lived, and the eccentricity. The book outlines his life, and the first chapter will explain why Harold is Harold, and why he was a showman like he was. So I'll just now hand over to cousin Philip for Philip to say a few words. Thank you.